Some may came here today just because they don't know why they came to church today. They just came. Some may came because they want to hear this brother right before you speak. They want to see, what's Markel about? I know him outside the church. Is he the same as what he says he is? Some people may have came because they wanted to hear the pastor preach. Some people may have came because they're looking for a church home where they're wanting just to know a little bit more about Jesus. Whatever the reason why you came today, you came for a purpose. Amen. You came for a purpose. Right. Because this is what we do. Just not coming to church. Just not praise up and worshiping. That's all beautiful and great. Mm-hmm. But this is what we do on the inside. That's right. We live for God. Everything we do is for God. Because we know without Him, we would not even be here standing right now. That's why we do this. Yes. This is what we do. I don't know how you cannot be excited. After that, after all that, you know, I'm usually, for the most part, calm, cool, and collected guy. But on the inside, I'm jumping up and down. Jumping up and down. Come on now. Because again, this is what I do. You may know me by another title. There's plenty of titles that it's been thrown my way in a short lifespan. But just know, this is what I do, and man of God, praise is what I do. Know me by that. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Hallelujah. All right, we're going to get right into it. Amen. What is it that you want? What is it that you want from God? You want from people? Even what you want from yourself. What is it that you want? We'll see if we get this question answered after this short sermon. I have my share of desires and wishes. I know I shared a part of my story before in previous sermons. But a lot of the desires and wishes that I had, they let me down. They failed me. Now I'm sure everybody in this room has plenty or had plenty of wishes and desires, and they let them down as well. Because you start looking everywhere else. Looking everywhere else that you're not supposed to, just like a kid. You look everywhere else where that you're not supposed to look. See, now when you do that, you open yourself up for the work of negative productivity or outcomes to pour out of your life. Mm-hmm. You just opened yourself up to what is not of God. Mm-hmm. Yes. You know, there comes a time in our life when we just know better. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm sure most people heard it say, you know better, you do better. But do we really believe it? Do we really do that? Let's take it to the scriptures. We're in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 14 through 17. And while we're going through this, just remember the question for whoever may be going through these situations or anything that we're going to cover. How many times are you going to get beat up by the world until you come back to God? Come on now. How many times are you going to get beat up by the world until you come back to God? Right. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 14. But you should continue following the teachings you learned. You know they are true because you trust those who taught you. Now, God has laid everything out. He's laid it out in the book. He just said, you know the teachings. It's right there. Now, don't dismiss it. That's where it starts. You know, you receive something from somebody gives you something, you have the choice to accept or dismiss. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind the question, what is it that you want? So when we dismiss God, again, that's when we fall into over here. God's work is over here, but we dismiss it, so now we're over here. We're opening ourselves up to evilness, chaos, whatever it may be, because we're looking at everywhere else. So, again, what does it take for you to come back to God? Does it take a drastic situation? Does it take bankruptcy? Does it take financial pain? Does it take a domestic situation that occurred? What does it take? Make it personal to you. Now, this just ain't only for the ones who fell off or whatever you want to call it. It's also for the ones who are very faithful as well, who are doubting God about something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Who there's just one little fear in them that they're lacking the trust of God, but don't think He's going to be able to do it.
Come on.
Now, this is for everybody. What are you looking to? You already know God is the one who can supply all your needs. You heard everybody told you. You heard your mama, grandpa, everybody. You heard the pastor told you over and over and over and over.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But all it takes is one little thing to creep in for you to doubt.
Yes.
And when some little thing like this, it grows all the way big as you can see. Verse 15. Since you were a child, you have known the Holy Scriptures, which are able to make you wise, and that wisdom leads to salvation through faith in Christ Jesus. So again, for the ones who grew up in church straight away, or for the ones who consistently attend church or have spiritual fellowships, but the relationship with God has to do, you can inherit everything that God has to offer you, because He has imparted a portion of wisdom inside of you that will lead you to salvation. Because remember, you already started from the base. You already have that. You already have the foundation that you're building on.
Come on.
You can have everything that God has to offer just as well as the most committed, faithful servants of God have. Because remember, He came to save all. Jesus did. He came to save all. So don't get caught up in what the world tells you that, hey, you know you've been messing up, you've been doing this wrong, everybody's told you you've been doing this wrong. How can you live with yourself?
Right.
God is frustrated at you, God's mad at you. Again, that's the work of the enemy. Remember, you're important to God. If He wasn't, Jesus would not have, or God would not have allowed Jesus to come down and do what He did for all. He just would have said, I just died for a certain group of people. I just died for the ones who fully believe right off the bat, whatever it may be. Men, women, different colors, whatever you want to call it. But no, He did for every individual that's been on this face of the earth. No matter what you did, whether other people in this world know it or not, or what you did, it don't matter. God already knows anyway, so it's between you and Him.
That's right.
Just know, it's never going to be too late. As long as you're still here, it's never going to be too late to come back to Him. Just really look at yourself and be honest with yourself. I know I'm good enough. I know what God has told me to do. You got to cancel that noise out. Verse 16. All Scripture is inspired by God and is useful for teaching, for showing people what is wrong in their lives, for correcting faults, and for teaching how to live right. For anybody that's less than 100% right with God, He'll get you where you need to get to. Those wrongs, those downfalls that you have, if you allow God to go to work and be patient, those downfalls that you have, He'll get them corrected. He's just waiting on you.
Come on, come on. Make it plain.
He's been knocking on the door. You just haven't opened it. Now you need to go start knocking on His. You need to meet Him halfway. That's all you got to do. He said, just meet me halfway. I'll take care of the rest. But we have become so desensitized or numb to God's Word and teaching that we don't even make it halfway. Again, I keep bringing up the example of the world because that's down here what we're dealing with.
Yes.
We're dealing with the system down here. We're dealing with politics, leaders, officials, anybody that's in authority. We're just your everyday folks down here that you run in contact with. We're just trying to bring you down because misery loves company. We're dealing with all that stuff. But God said, you just meet me halfway. Just come over here, and I got you. Because what happens if you go to somebody, you're going through a tough time. I brought up examples who go through financial crisis. You lose a job unexpectedly. Anything that you cherish that was deep to your heart, you lose. And you go to somebody else. People are just going to tell you what they think you want to hear.
Right.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Now, catch the key word. I said think. People are just going to tell you what they think you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
God knows what you need to hear. So why are you going to waste time on those type of people?
Mm-hmm.
When God, He may have already placed some people in your lives already. Because I think it was in verse 14, He said, you trust the people who taught you. Which again, you dismissed it. You got to be wise. Again, I said God imparted a portion of wisdom in everybody who has been through some of His word, has put in a little time with God, who knows Him. He gives you little pieces. But again, we sure away when we turn our back on the Lord, or we just close the door on Him just when I want to sit there in life. We want God to do 99% of everything else in our life, but this one, we don't think, for some whatever reason, we do not think God will get it taken care of.
That's right.
Come on now.
God has intended for us to live a glorious, blessed life.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 17. Using the scriptures, the person who serves God will be capable, having all that is needed to do every good work. Now, I believe the King James Version uses perfect, the word perfect. Somebody got King James Version of that?
I
Verse
do.
17? You got it, Mom?
17?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you want me to read it?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the man that God made me perfect through finish unto all good work. Wait a minute, hold on.
I got you. I'm going to give you a mic.
Wait a minute. That's the man of God made me perfect through the furnace unto all good works.
That's it. That's it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, Mom don't speak much. All of this have led us to live perfect life. Okay? The perfect life that God has intended us to live. What do I mean by perfect life? If you have chosen to live a life that was not intended or planned for God to allow you to live, you have not lived the perfected life. The perfected life is lived by God's word. That's the perfected life. Now, before we go on, don't get me wrong, once you live that perfected life, there's going to be transgressions. There's going to be trials that's going to try to steer you away from God's precepts.
Come on now.
Just because of who we follow.
Mm-hmm.
What's that statistic you said in Bible study, Pastor? You said it was 70% of the country or the world claim to be Christians? Oh, excuse me, of our country, even better yet, you just take our country. 70% say they are Christians. I remember, I don't know if Pastor heard me Bible say, but I said, that ain't true. I don't care what the stats say. They're just saying they're Christians. Because I just look at this world, ain't no way you're going to say the majority of the people in the U.S. are true Christians. Because they don't know the meaning. They don't know what they really want. They think they know what they want. But you truly don't know until you spend that time with God and once you give your life fully over to Him.
That's right. That's right.
But guess what? Those who endure until the end will make it through. Those who endure the troubles of what we call life will make it to the end. He who does these things will never be shaken. And that's a scripture in Psalms, I believe. He who does these things will never be shaken. Those who endure till the end. ones who are serious about God, the ones who are able to let that nonsense just go by, the ones who don't give in to what their flesh is saying. This is what we want. This is what we want from God, to be allowed to live that perfected life.
Yes.
You may be thinking your life is okay right now. It may be good, but you truly know to yourself that you're feeling empty. There's something just missing within you. You know that you're faking it just enough to where people won't notice, or where you can convince yourself that I'm all right, I'm doing okay. That Markel has this. I'm speaking first person now. But you got to know,
Amen.
God's only going to knock for so long. He's only going to knock for so long.
So long.
So we know what we want, right? Or we know what we should be wanting, and what we need. Is really, it goes together, what we want and what we need. If you read the verses before this, earlier in chapter 3, I'm not going to read it. And if anybody knows me, anytime I deliver a message, there's two things. One, most of the messages that pastors or preachers give, they usually come from within, meaning something that they may be going through, something that they've been dealing with people on for quite a while, or something that the enemy is trying to bring them down on. And a reason why I think pastors or preachers, the ones who get caught up in this trouble mess, is they do not apply these things to themselves first. So whatever message it is, I'm not saying that every message that you give is going to be needed to apply to you at that particular time. I'm just saying you need to look at it first. Make sure that your stuff is right before you go out.
That's right.
Secondly, I can only say so much to you. I can stand up here another hour just on this topic before you and just beat it in. But it's up to you just to take the little snippet that God gives you and go from there. Because again, this is between you and Him.
Amen. Come on.
I'm just doing my part. So I'm going to end you with this. It's just something that a couple of weeks ago, I was watching a movie trailer, and it was a horror movie. I'm not real big on scary movies and all that, but the trailer came on. I don't think it's out yet. And basically what the movie was about, everybody got their cell phones, and on your cell phone, there's an app. There's an app you can download, and it tells you when you're going to die. You put your name in, Markel Watkins, blah, 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 whatever, and somehow it creates and says, this is when you're going to die. And it's like a running clock. And it has it down to these seconds. So it goes from years, months, days, hours, minutes, and seconds.
Yeah, right.
And what do you think those people were doing? Just in that 3-minute trailer, they were going to see professionals, counselors, doctors, whoever it was, to try to figure out, hey, this cannot be right.
Right.
What can I do? They were doing everything else. Now, just say if that was happening right now. Say if we had something like that. What would you do? I'll tell you what I'd be doing. I'd be praising.
Come on.
I'd be praising. Say if I had 2 hours left. 2 hours from right now. From when I'm speaking now, right now, 2 hours left. I'm just praising.
Come on. Yeah.
So I know the work what I've done. I know what God has allowed me to do and where I stand with God. But some people, they're going to go be out doing whatever they wish they could have done. They're going to be doing. Going out whatever crimes they want to do, or see whoever they want to go see. They may go say, I need to go get myself right with mama. You had your whole life to do all that. You had your whole life to do all that. Now, but guess what? We don't have that. We know that's not Real life. We know there's a running clock on this, but it's not visible. It's not visible.
That's right.
So I know we heard the stories about, the people, they got hit with a sickness, and they knew their time was coming quickly. They knew a month, 2 weeks. And so we see them go home peacefully. They're at peace with God. They're at peace with everybody.
Come on.
Everything is just nothing but love. But once again, guess what? We all are not going to go out like that. We're not going to have that. I almost said fairy tale, but we're not going to have that luxury. Thank you. We're not going to have that luxury of being on our deathbed for a couple months, and then we can see if we can get ourselves right with God.
That's right.
We're not going to have that. I do not want my salvation to be dependent upon a near-life experience.
That's right.
It's a scary thought. One of the most. I don't have any fears. I don't. But that would be a fear of mine. Knowing my salvation is up in jeopardy. I'm out here just doing what I'm doing.
Right.
That's right.